I traveled back to the day he confessed his feelings to me. The school bully suddenly stopped mid-sentence, staring wide-eyed at me, and I immediately realized my old partner had traveled back with me. He let out a cold laugh, then turned to confess to the school beauty standing beside me. I rolled my eyes and turned to gaze at the school heartthrob I hadn't seen in 50 or 60 years. I really do prefer this type after all. One before traveling back in time, Samuel and I were still arguing at his 80th birthday banquet. Our granddaughter dug out a group photo from my old wallet and pointing at him said, "Grandpa, you looked so refined when you were young." I didn't say anything. Samuel just smiled. The person in that photo wasn't him at all. The moment we're alone, at night we start fighting. "Julia, if you don't want this marriage anymore, then let us end it." "Fine, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Whoever backs out this time is a dog." This kind of exchange happened hundreds of times during our dog and dog marriage. This time was different. In the middle of the night, I suddenly felt like I couldn't breathe. Before I could even wake Samuel up, I took my last breath. When I opened my eyes again, a young Samuel was standing right in front of me, surrounded by our high school classmates at a KTV party, with a cake sitting on the table. "What is going on?" I low. Samuel's expression suddenly changed mid-sentence, his face frozen in disbelief as he stared at me. One glance was all it took. We both realized we'd time traveled together. This was the day 17-year-old him confessed his feelings to me. As fate would have it, right before this, I'd just been rejected by my secret crush. In a moment of impulsiveness, I'd said yes to Samuel and even boldly planted a kiss on him, right in front of my secret crush. It wasn't until much later that I learned Samuel had actually lost a game of truth or dare that day. Understandable, after all. During high school, I was utterly unremarkable. Thick black framed glasses, heavy bangs, braces, and nothing but school uniform jackets and short-sleeve shirts. Meanwhile, even though Samuel fooled around and never studied properly, his handsome looks and charming personality made him popular with girls. The school as golden boy. It would be unreasonable if he actually liked me. Sure enough, the bastard shut his mouth with a sneer and turned to confess his feelings to the school beauty sitting next to me. I also sneered, carefully stealing glances at today's birthday boy, my childhood friend, the Stephen the First V, had a crush on for 10 years, over the rim of my wine glass. Perfect, now we really don't have to make it through this, saving us a trip to the Civil Affairs Bureau. It must be that the heavens took pity on us, this miserable couple, and gave us a chance to choose better partners. Studying should still be our top priority now, the school belle said, shyly lowering her head, but if it's Samuel we're talking about, I think we could give it a try. Samuel froze for a moment, exchanging a glance with me. I saw him smile slightly as he said to the school belle, "Good, good, very good, couldn't he be better?" I was gnashing my teeth in frustration that Samuel had beaten me to it. I clenched my fists in secret, determined to win Stephen over. The next day, school officially went on summer break. I asked Stephen out 3 times and got rejected each time. On the 4th attempt, I lay in bed stewing over it until I couldn't take it anymore, then climbed over to his window in the dead of night to knock. He was still awake, too. Seeing my stubborn refusal to leave without getting my way, he could only open the window with a resigned expression. I pushed aside the vines and stuck my face in. "Stephen, you can't just stop hanging out with me because I like you." He choked on his water at my words, turning his head away uncomfortably to make excuses. "I really have to study, no time." "But I asked your younger brother, you don't have classes every Sunday." I pouted, saying sadly, "Are you cutting ties with me?" Stephen's gaze flickered slightly as he looked down at me quietly for a moment. The green leaves brushing against my neck tickled my heart with delight. After a long pause, he finally conceded, "All right, see you tomorrow." My sorrow instantly turned to joy as I cheered. "Great, I'll wait for you at the neighborhood gate tomorrow at 10 a.m. This date with Stephen is incredibly important to me. After graduating high school, his family moved away, and we lost all contact. I couldn't find any news about him, no matter how hard I tried. Stephen was like a dream from my youth, beautiful, yet elusive, leaving behind nothing but wistful longing. I took off my braces and glasses, learned to dress up, and basked in the admiration of those around me, yet I often thought of him. He never got to see me at my prettiest. The next day, I carefully prepared myself, putting on the little white dress I had ready and spritzing on a light white tea perfume. Spotting Stephen approaching from afar, I stood by the fountain, letting the sunlight fall on my better side. The breeze arrived just right. I tucked the hair behind my ear and offered him a soft, knowing smile. I was pleased to see the word stunning reflected in his eyes. However, my good mood lasted only until we reached the mall entrance. Upon spotting Samuel and the school beauty, I slammed on the brakes and tried to drag Stephen away, but it was already too late. "Julia, Stephen, what a coincidence," the school beauty approached with a beaming smile. "I almost didn't recognize you at first. Julia, you look absolutely gorgeous today." I forced an awkward laugh. "Haha, no, if there's nothing else then." The school beauty grabbed my sleeve. "Since we've run into each other, let us have lunch together." Susan winked at me, and I understood. She might have had a disagreement with Samuel and didn't want to be alone with him. "Little sister, your broad road is blocked. Don't chop down my single plank bridge." I glanced at Stephen, who said either way was fine. I shot a look at Samuel, who said he'd follow Susan's lead. What else could we do? We had to compromise. At the mall, we ran into 4 or 5 more classmates, and what was supposed to be a lovely date for 2 ended up turning into a big class reunion. However, things couldn't get worse until they did. "In the elevator, you took your medicine, right?" Samuel glanced at my neck, where I'd gotten bitten by bugs in the vines yesterday, leaving me with hives. I rolled my eyes. "Of course I did. Do I look stupid to you?" "It's hard to say. There was that one time you..." I coughed violently, and Samuel shut his mouth. At the dinner table, I instinctively washed Samuel's bowl and chopsticks. First the room fell silent, so I calmly proceeded to wash everyone else's tableware too. Samuel peeled a shrimp and reflexively tossed it into my bowl. He paused, then calmly picked it back up with his chopsticks. Stepping out of the restaurant, Samuel suddenly checked his pockets. Honey, have you seen my phone? I immediately rummaged through my bag too. It's not with me. Everyone's footsteps came to a halt. I lowered my head inch by inch, wishing I could vanish into the cracks in the ground before me. God damn it, if I could turn back time, I'd rather die than give in. That damned Samuel stifled a laugh and ruffled my hair. They've all gone downstairs. What are you still squatting here for? Oh, these tiles are truly a marvel of craftsmanship, perfectly seamless. The smooth floor reflected my flushed face. 3. Julia, did you really elope with Samuel? I spat out my water. Some random bystander on the left suddenly chimed in helpfully. No way do people spreading rumors even have common sense. They're not even of legal marriage age yet. I wiped my mouth and nodded in strong agreement. This guy continued. They were clearly childhood sweethearts. Hold on, passerby, B passionately chimed in. No, what I heard was that she was a child bride. I roared. I said stop. After fermenting over the summer break, the gossip about us had evolved to a downright unbearable stench. But it didn't matter, come what may. We handle it. Samuel and I were determined to go our separate ways in this lifetime. I found a small whistle by the running track. I do have a very deep connection with Samuel. Oh. With an enigmatic smile, I continued, because of him my family register almost had one less name. We're sworn enemies. The crowd was stunned, so all those rumors about us being involved romantically are completely false. Not everything I said was a lie. That year Samuel got into a car accident while picking me up from work. I was in decent shape, but Samuel passed out on the spot. After the examination, the doctor showed me the report and reassured me that the baby was fine. What baby? Where did a baby come from? How could I have almost lost 2 lives at once? Luckily your husband reacted quickly and turned the steering wheel toward your side, otherwise it would been hard to say what might happened. Yet Samuel suffered a traumatic brain injury, leaving him with a persistent tremor in his arm. Of all things it had to be his hand, and of all people it had to be him, a man who made his living with a paintbrush. That night, as I kept vigil by his hospital bed, I called my parents and told them I might be getting married soon. I've been grateful to him all these years, but what we have is only familial love, not romantic love. Because we both carried someone else in our hearts, being together was just a matter of timing, like 2 drenched puppies deciding to walk side by side. One day Samuel's friend asked me to pick him up. He was inexplicably drunk. He hugged me, mistaking me for his friend. I really like her. I heard him speak in such a regretful and aggrieved tone for the first time. I couldn't resist asking who. In front of everyone, Samuel opened his eyes to look at me, pressed his forehead against mine, and smiled. Certainly not you. There was a portrait in his study as safe. I lifted it halfway to look. The girl in it was wearing a princess dress with an enormous skirt. I quietly put down the covering cloth. I've never worn a dress like that, not even a similar wedding gown. Because we only got our marriage certificate, never had a wedding ceremony. No matter how much something weighs on your heart, given enough time, there will always come a day when you let it go. In my youthful ignorance, I too believed that a marriage without love was tragic. Yet the mundane world holds few earth-shattering love stories. In the daily grind of rice and firewood, familial love ultimately proves stronger. Being deeply important to each other is enough, whether we're each other as absolute priority. Some things are better left unsaid. I never knew who he loved, but now I can almost guess. It must have been Susan. I even suspect that because the KTV lighting was too dim and Susan and I were sitting too close, he mistook me for her in that moment and then just went with the mistake for a lifetime. Samuel is both proud and timid. I bet that one moment of confessing during truth or dare used up all his courage. Where would he find the strength to set things right afterward? Samuel came to my class with a stern face, asking me to meet him in the art room after school. After spending the entire morning with a parched throat reinforcing everyone's impression that Samuel and I were sworn enemies, someone actually came up to me after I returned to my seat and asked if we were planning to fight and if I needed backup. I was quite pleased. Weren't you supposed to help me win Susan over? How's that going? And weren't you supposed to help me with Stephen? Got any bright ideas? We exchanged looks of mutual disdain. Neither of them had any experience in pursuing someone, so they had to turn to Baidu for help. The first step in pursuing someone, according to this, is to confess your feelings, and the most romantic and innocent way to confess is writing a love letter. Samuel was puzzled. We've already confessed. Do we still need to write love letters? I was confused too. Should we try it then? Following the steps shouldn't go wrong? So we sat facing blank sheets of paper for half an hour. Samuel tossed his paper aside. Tisich, can't write this, too sappy. My meditation interrupted. I looked up at him. In the art room, translucent dust floated through the twilight. Samuel twirled a pen with one hand while casually rubbing the back of his neck with the other, his outline glowing faintly with a soft halo that made him appear warm and radiant. My companion, my old friend. I sincerely hope he gets what he wishes for, I said. Samuel, since we've been given a second chance, be brave this time. He raised his head, his amber eyes staring straight at me. I will. After a moment of contemplation, he began writing with effortless grace. Meanwhile, I still hadn't the slightest clue. Watching the blocks of text forming on his paper from afar, I suddenly felt a wave of irritation. Julia, my deskmate Susan poked me, and I lifted my head from the sea of problems. What is up? Samuel copied a love letter from somewhere, but it's completely nonsensical and has nothing to do with me. Look. I took it over in confusion. Aren't love letters all just the same sweet nothings? What kind of writing is this that is so incoherent? After reading just those few lines, my brain completely shut down. What are you looking at? Your face is all red. Samuel suddenly appeared, asking softly above my head. I was reading porn, stop bothering me. I frantically covered the desk with books, feeling my ears burning with embarrassment. That's right, Samuel must have copied those words from somewhere else. Don't flatter yourself. For he wrote, I like you. Not just in the time that never happened, not just in the moments you looked at others, not just now, not just in the future. I have so many unspoken words, I wish I could spend another lifetime telling you, counting your white hairs and wrinkles, while speaking with raw burning honesty. Yet I'm a coward, only daring to secretly yearn where you can't see. Samuel knocked on my desk, leaning close to my burning ear to whisper. What was the second step of pursuit again? 5 passerbys suddenly intervened, patting Samuel on the shoulder. Classmate Samuel, bullying is a despicable act. Then Samuel was shoved out in utter bewilderment. 6 Susan stood nearby with an auntie-like grin while I covered my ears trying to think calmly. Something felt off. I can't figure it out, so I'll solve problems first. At least conic sections are straightforward and easy to understand. A mere time travel 1 tea break, my 3-year streak as the top student in high school. Yes, I take my image as an idol very seriously. Samuel asked me to tutor him, making him my 3rd apprentice. The other 2 were Susan and the class monitor, who sat behind me. The second step in pursuit, creating opportunities for close contact. Every Saturday and Sunday, our master-disciple quartet would secretly gather at a downtown coffee shop to study away from prying eyes. Seizing the moment when the class monitor went to the restroom, I casually asked Samuel, did you actually write that love letter yourself? Samuel turned his head, awkwardly, while I borrowed a love letter collection from the library and just copied a random page. Thud! Susan gave Samuel a sharp kick under the table. I turned my head, pretending not to notice, lowered my head, and uttered a flat O. What high school library would keep a love letter encyclopedia? The class monitor sat down and said the autumn sports meet is in a few days, and we might have to ask Susan to be the sign bearer again. In a flash of lightning, the image from Samuel's safe suddenly crossed my mind. I remembered that princess dress was the one Susan wore at this year's autumn sports meet. Samuel recklessly handed in his test paper. I feel like I can score 100 this time. I glanced at it. What's with this flashy handwriting? Rewrite it in standard script. Samuel followed me all the way, and as we approached the neighborhood, I couldn't help but shoo him away. Why aren't you going home yet? With an earnest expression, he said, I'm going the same way. Sometimes I really want to crack open his head and see what's inside, as if I wouldn't know where he lives. His expression suddenly changed, and I followed his gaze. It was Stephen. You're in such a hurry to send me away so you can go find Stephen. It's not like I'd stop you. Samuel, the undisputed champion of never learning his lesson. I'm the best at handling tsundras. I took a few steps back, watching his expression grow increasingly sour. Do you want me to go find him? I'll do as you say. So, do you want me to or not? Samuel gritted his teeth. No. I covered his mouth. No need to say it. I just worry you don't even understand yourself. The best way to deal with stubbornness isn't forcing words out, but making him swallow them back when he has finally resolved. Samuel saw me home as he wished. After saying goodbye, he couldn't help but ask, when you said you'd listen to me, does that mean you won't pursue Stephen anymore? I gazed candidly at his retreating figure that tried in vain to conceal itself. I won't chase after him for now. If even I myself am wavering, I would never dream of pestering others. I thought Stephen's place in my heart, after 50 years of stubborn self-delusion, had long solidified into an indestructible white moonlight. I never thought I'd be so easily swayed by a few words from a coward. 7. So why did you suddenly get angry yesterday? I motioned for Samuel to lean in close, then whispered each word deliberately. I won't tell. This is what they call fighting fire with fire. Definitely not, because I'm also stubborn. 8. Susan the tailor is here in the office. They're calling you for measurements. Susan was sprawled over her desk, furiously scribbling to finish her homework. She freed one hand to pat me. Julia, you're about my size. Go take my measurements for me. Suspecting nothing, I got up and went. Stephen was also getting measured in the office, following the tailor's instructions with every movement. He stood still with his arms outstretched, his jade-like profile and elegant posture making him appear utterly obedient. Noticing his gaze turning toward me, I simply nodded in greeting before stepping aside to wait, saying nothing more. He froze for a moment, then quietly averted his eyes. An inexplicably awkward atmosphere began to permeate the office. I stared blankly at the star-shaped cookie tin on my desk, lost in thought. Since we lived close by, and were about the same age, Stephen and I had been acquainted since I was still wetting the bed. My parents were often busy with work, leaving me home alone frequently. I would often carry a small stool and go knock on his window. He was very different from both me and Samuel. Even if we lived to be 70 or 80, the two of us would still be childish and impulsive. Stephen, however, had always been quiet and dependable since childhood. I loved the faint medicinal scent on him, the gentle voice with which he read me bedtime stories, and the way I'd turn around to catch his soft gaze resting on me. In elementary school, folding paper stars became a trend in our class. Clumsily, I folded my first one, though crooked and misshapen. I wanted to give it to Stephen, but his desk was already piled high with many others, delicate and colorful little stars from everyone else. I withdrew my hand at that moment. I thought, everyone likes him so much, I don't want to be just another face in the crowd. A week later, my parents went on a business trip, leaving me alone at home overnight. A nearby clap of thunder startled me awake. Outside the window the darkness was ink black, a basin had toppled over, and the lightning illuminated this empty silent house, and me clutching my blanket too afraid to make a sound. I reached for the light switch, but the power was out. Stephen knocked on my door at that very moment holding a small umbrella and earmuffs coming to coax me to sleep. Just as I was deeply drowsy he whispered, "Wait for me a moment." I fought off sleepiness while waiting for him. Half asleep I saw Stephen place a glass jar filled with paper stars by my bedside. "You stared at those stars for so long that day, you must really love them." The little lights around the jar flickered suddenly, making it seem as though the stars were gazing back at me. So many people looked at it, yet it chose to watch only me. Holding it close, I slipped beneath the covers. "Don't be afraid," he patted my head, "the stars will always be by your side." I don't know when it started, but Stephen gradually drifted away from me. I could no longer see him whenever I turned around, no longer had that person who would brave thunderstorms to lull me to sleep on rainy nights. Driven by an urgent need to hold on to him, I confessed my feelings only to be rejected. Later I ended up with Samuel and gradually grew apart from Stephen. He didn't say goodbye to me on the day he moved away. It rained all night. The next morning when I opened the window, I found a rain-soaked paper star on the windowsill with ink stains showing through. I carefully unfolded it and saw a single sentence written inside. "Let us forget each other." 9. I walked out of the office and found Stephen waiting for me outside. "Julia, lately you've..." He pressed his lips together, and didn't he continue? I knew he wanted to ask me why I'd been so distant with him lately. I countered, "Did you ever consider me a friend? If you did, why did you leave without a word, vanishing without a trace?" I didn't say anything more. 18-year-old Julia had once been desperate to know the answer to this question, but 80-year-old Julia had already let it go. Perhaps I just wanted to meet him once more to know that he was doing well, nothing more than that. He lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry, I just didn't want to trouble you. As a friend I haven't done enough." "It's all right," I heard 18-year-old Julia say. "I accept your apology." Oddly enough, in my memory it was Samuel who carried the flag for our class this time. Samuel must have had a crush on Susan back then and pulled some strings to replace Stephen. The two flamboyant figures stood at the front of our class, one in a princess dress, the other in knight's attire, looking for all the world like newlyweds, drawing everyone's attention at first glance. Standing at the back of the line, I could occasionally catch snippets of admiration from the crowd. "They look so good together." Samuel turned his head from afar, giving me a smug eyebrow raise that clearly spelled out, "Your boyfriend's handsome, huh? Who wasn't he a scumbag dreaming of having their cake and eating it too when they were young?" My hands are itching. I need to go punch him right this instant. Under the watchful eyes of numerous classmates, I carried out this act of school violence, while Samuel dared to be angry, but not speak up. On the day of the autumn sports, meet Susan pulled a vanishing act, leaving me utterly blindsided. I stood at the school gate in a fluffy white princess dress I hadn't worn in 2 lifetimes, waiting for Stephen. The moment our class was about to enter, a figure came running from afar. The knight's uniform accentuated his slender waist, but the insignia on his shoulder paled in comparison to the brilliance of his gleaming eyes. He ran all the way to me, bending over to catch his breath. Samuel raised his head and reached out to me. "Let us go, everyone's waiting for us." I walked in a daze for a while, until the class monitor couldn't stand it anymore. "Big bro, we asked you to hold the flag, not to hold the bride's hand at a wedding." We immediately sprang apart, simultaneously standing a meter apart to get into formation. "Why is it you again? Who else were you expecting?" I asked the class monitor why they had invited him to hold the flag. "Well, Stephen had something come up last minute, and this guy was the only one hanging around nearby. He even asked if we needed help, so I let him do it," I said with sarcasm. "Wow, Samuel is as warm-hearted as ever." "Not this time," Samuel replied. "This time, it's just to stand by your side." The sunlight today was too scorching, making one's face burn with embarrassment. From the crowd came faint murmurs. "They're so perfect for each other, right? I've been shipping this love-hate couple for ages. Come on, I'll add you to the group chat." I twitched the corner of my mouth. "Seriously, you'd probably say a dog tied next to Samuel was a perfect match too." 10. I was grading Samuel's essay when he suddenly rapped me on the head. "TCH, sit up straight when you write." Samuel frowned as he lifted my chin that was practically touching the paper. "I suspect your later cervical spine problems are related to these bad habits from this time." "Oh no, the tables have turned," I muttered under my breath. "Nagging old man." Samuel, who was about to let go, paused and shook my chin from side to side. "Who's a nagging old man? There's only the most dashing old man here." I forced a smile and said, "Sure thing, old man." 3 days later, Samuel mysteriously summoned me to the courier station for a chat. Looking at this standard-issue mall massage chair, my vision went dark. "Early detection leads to early treatment. I specially picked the most fully featured model for you. So do you like it? Where should I put this, bro?" "Put it in the dorm. I'll deliver it to your door later. I made a payment QR code with your info on it. When you're not using it, it can even earn you some pocket money." Will people actually use this? Seriously, who needs such petty cash anyway? Too many flaws to list, don't you like it? I withdrew my distracted gaze and nodded I do. Samuel smiled smugly and checked off the item in his planner. Courting step 3, give the most thoughtful gift. Fortunately, as a top-tier high school, the dormitory space was quite ample, otherwise this would have been unbearable. Wow, this feels amazing. Hey, no fair, you've already had 2 turns, get up already, there's a line behind you. In the middle of the night, I received a payment notification from Alipay. Opening my eyes, I silently pondered whether opening a massage parlor in a nationally renowned high school could become a lucrative business opportunity. Samuel, you never disappoint. It was a free study hall evening. Propping my head up, I watched Susan pull out her mistake notebook to keep herself busy. Playing wingman for Samuel. Do you not like him at all? Susan put down the notebook and thought for a moment. Do you think I'm pretty? She turned her face directly toward me. Her skin was like congealed cream, her features exquisitely delicate. I nodded firmly. Susan pursed her lips into a smile. I'm not naturally gifted in studies. My grades aren't as good as yours. And unlike Samuel, who is an art student, I really don't have the energy to spare for dating. I want to stay beautiful forever, but I also want a future where I can be at ease and not be constrained by this face. Besides, Susan teased with a playful wink, not everyone treasures Samuel the way you do. I silently covered my face with my hands. A vague memory surfaced in my mind long after graduation. Someone in the class group chat had mentioned the school belle from back then. An insider said they saw her owning yachts in Los Angeles and keeping several foreign hunks as handsome as Leonardo DiCaprio. How enviable. The back door creaked open a crack. A student leader close to the class monitor whispered, "The school is going to search the dormitories." Before I could react, the class monitor looked up in shock. Behind me. Damn, what about my popcorn machine? Passerby, A, my mahjong table. Passerby, B, my fireworks tube. Seems like everyone was secretly going all out with their hobbies. My massage chair is completely insignificant now. The problem is I don't remember any dorm inspections happening at all. Just as I was about to hastily join the group returning to the dorm to dispose of the evidence, I caught sight of the date on the blackboard and felt a chill run down my spine. No wonder Samuel hadn't been hovering around me all day. How could I have forgotten about this date? Checking my phone, I saw that Samuel had called me 9 times and sent over a dozen messages. An hour ago, the last one read, "Still too scared to go alone." I gasped and immediately grabbed a roommate. "I have an emergency and can't go back, could you?" My roommate gave me a determined look. "Leave the massage chair to me." I called Samuel while taking the stairs 2 at a time. At the company's 10th anniversary celebration, reporters asked Samuel, as the boss, a few lighthearted questions backstage. One of them was, if you could go back in time, what would you most want to do? People around were guessing whether it would be buying property in the capital or shorting the market to strike it rich during the bubble economy crash. After some thought, he gave an answer. "I want to be a brave person." Everyone laughed, and the reporter praised him for being adorable, but I couldn't bring myself to smile. Samuel's father died when he was 17. He didn't go to see him one last time, just sat in a daze in a bridge underpass not far from the hospital. Out of humanitarian concern, I stayed by his side in the cold wind for an hour until all the city lights had gone out. In the darkness, he asked me very softly, "Are children the bond between parents or chains?" His parents were in a loveless arranged marriage, each maintaining their own separate families outside. Samuel was an unwanted child born at the center of interests in the blind spot of love. So from a very young age, he understood one thing: love is the closest thing to a lie in this world, something to be exchanged with tears and disproven with wounds. When he was little, his grandfather told him the story of Mal Yang and his magic brush. Little Samuel's eyes sparkled, and just like that, he fell in love with painting. 2 years later, a master praised his sketches as brimming with vitality and exceptional talent. Little Samuel was feeling down. His grandfather asked him what was wrong, and he said, "What kind of drawing would it take to make what I want come true?" His grandfather said, "Whatever you want, Grandpa will buy it for you." Little Samuel shook his head. He had asked many times but never received it. As he grew older, he seemed to realize that earnestly conveying his desires to others was an exceptionally perilous act. His naive thoughts, childish demands, and urgent expectations when faced with unfulfilled wishes would all turn into sharp blades pointed at himself. After hearing his grandfather say these words, I resolved to make up for Samuel's lack of familial love on behalf of his parents caring for him as if he were a child. Yet I wasn't mature myself. More often than not, we took care of each other amid constant bickering and supported one another. And so we walked down a very, very long road together. He was a coward who feared even happiness, who would get hurt by the touch of cotton. He is also my most precious little hedgehog. And this little hedgehog is boldly exposing its soft belly right in front of me. He knows I would never hurt him, not ever. Samuel stood at the stairwell, saw me coming down, and said, "Come with me, wifey." The class monitor jumped out from behind me, caught red-handed. Passerby, A adulterous couple. Passerby, B a happy union lasting 100 years. I grabbed Samuel's hand and fled with my face covered. "You old coot, I told you not to call me that." His father was surrounded by another family. Samuel held my hand firmly, pushing through the crowd, and under their astonished whispers placed down a bouquet wrapped in drawing paper. On the paper was little Samuel's most cherished drawing, a family portrait. Stepping out of the hospital, Samuel suddenly felt a weight lift from his shoulders. We leaned against a familiar bridge arch, letting the wind carry our thoughts until the city was bathed in moonlight. He said softly, "I need to confess something." I glanced at him, thinking it was probably about how he liked Susan in his past life before shifting his affections to me. He took me back to school to the art room and uncovered a painting that had been draped. It was me wearing thick bangs and black-rimmed glasses, dressed in that princess gown with the enormous skirt from the autumn sports meet. His gaze was gentler than moonlight. This is the second time I've painted this picture. The last time I stood before everyone with someone else listening to their praises, I kept thinking how much better it would be if you were by my side. Everyone would see what a perfect match we are, and you would know it too. I stared dumbfounded at the painting until Samuel wiped away my tears. "You're the biggest idiot I've ever seen." I poked his chest and yelled angrily. Extra about the things Samuel would never confess. That day, Samuel accidentally witnessed Julia confessing her feelings to the birthday boy in the KTV hallway. Forgive him for just being dragged along by his troublemaking friends to join the fun. He didn't even remember the birthday person's name. That little girl looked so delicate and petite, yet where did she get such boldness? Samuel thought to himself, sorry, I don't want to be in a relationship right now. Julia stopped Stephen from leaving. Stephen said helplessly, I'm really sorry, whatever you want I can make it up to you. Julia met Stephen's gaze frankly and directly. I want us to make up, I want you to stop inexplicably avoiding me and distancing yourself. Since you don't like me then, I want us to be best friends for life. Can you do that? Stephen avoided her eyes, and an awkward silence fell over the hallway. Samuel was starting to feel sorry for her. I'm not sad, Julia said, stubbornly puffing up with anger. You were the one who made the promise. You were the one who couldn't keep it. You're the one who should feel sorry for yourself. Samuel froze, peeking out to glance at Julia. Her lips were pursed, as if she was about to cry, yet she insisted she wasn't. He sat, her chin was pointed, her neck slender, and pale, so pale it was dazzling. Samuel lost quick, someone come up with a brutal dare. I'll say it, Samuel has to go confess to a random girl at the girls' table. The bottle spun to a stop, pointing at him, abruptly cutting off his train of thought. Samuel frowned. The others realized they'd gotten carried away with their drinking and were speaking recklessly, and immediately fell silent. Samuel, sorry, never mind. Samuel stood up to confirm with them. I lost in truth or dare, so I have to go over there and confess to someone, right? The instigator nodded blankly. So Samuel walked step by step toward Julia, thinking to himself. It's just because of a dare I can't spoil their fun. At most I just want to get to know her a little, or maybe I didn't see her eyes clearly earlier, and just want to take a better look. With this mindset, Samuel managed to blurt out those words effortlessly. Julia gave him a surprised glance, remembering Stephen was watching. She steeled herself and agreed to his confession. Samuel was dumbfounded. What kind of heaven-sent wife? No, what kind of absurd situation was this? Anyone could tell this was just a game of truth or dare. His wife, no. Julia even leaned in and kissed him. This time he saw her clearly. Her eyes were beautiful, her lips soft, and she smelled wonderful. He had only one thought. It's a shame the woman destined to be my wife doesn't love me. The 32-year-old Samuel discovered Julia as star jar and secretly used his family connections to help her inquire about Stephen. The result was quite unexpected. Stephen was diagnosed with hereditary cerebral arteriopathy during his first year of high school. The disease has no cure, and once symptoms appear, only 20 to 30 years of life remain. In its advanced stages, it causes motor dysfunction and even symptoms similar to Alzheimer's disease. Remembering how Stephen suddenly collapsed in the locker room during the autumn sports meet, Samuel realized this was the truth behind his unexplained disappearance. He fed the documents into the shredder. Rather than letting her grieve over this unattainable ideal, it was better to make her believe Stephen was living happily. He had simply forgotten about her. 80-year-old Samuel found Julia beside him, had stopped breathing, and quietly retrieved the sleeping pills from the nightstand. He had only one thought. Opening my eyes, I actually traveled back over 60 years. Samuel faced Susan while Julia gazed at Stephen. Yet his eyes involuntarily drifted toward Julia's profile. I've liked you for a long time, a very, very long time. He blurted out those words again in a place where Julia couldn't see. Susan glanced at Julia, then at Samuel, understanding dawning in her eyes. With a sly fox-like smile, she playfully accepted this confession that wasn't meant for her. Actually, their first encounter dated back even earlier. During the second school-wide assembly in their freshman year, Julia had to take the stage as the top scorer in midterms to share study tips, while Samuel had to go up as the student with the most disciplinary violations to deliver a self-criticism. Julia held the speech draft in her hand while Samuel carried breakfast in his. They exchanged a glance. Looks dull and clumsy, not very bright, yet somehow the top of the class. Looks fierce and unapproachable, better stay far away from him. But in the end they became the closest to each other, sharing nearly identical life paths where not even death could part them. So, unfortunately, Julia didn't get her wish.